lines 6 through 17. Bit of a hefty section today, so I'll go ahead and get started. The first thing we see is this ad eas res conficiendas, prepositional phrase, and we're talking about those things to be done with that gerundive there. And those things to be done are the actions they discussed in the previous selection, talking about doing some sewing and buying up some materials and getting some supplies and grain, etc., etc. So we're talking about establishing that for these things to be done, or those things should be done, notion of force or meaningfulness. We have this period of 2 years here in the accusative, followed by for them and reflexive preposition and this adjective / adverb there, and we have essay, and this is looking a lot like an indirect statement, and we're quickly confirmed by the presence of a main verb right there. So talking about Duxerant being the perfect tense there, talking about the Helvetians is the NT ending. They have drawn, they have let out, they have thought about, talking about kind of a more abstract meaning with this indirect discourse here. They have drawn that with this beginning as the subject of the indirect statement, that 2 years, or a period of 2 years, put 2 years here, 2 years is sufficient for them. And now we have this odd, followed by those things to be done. How do we translate odd? We could say toward those matters, but it doesn't quite sound correct. I mean, we're applying motion with toward or to, but we're using it in this Latin, or the Latin is using this in a very, very abstract or figurative way. And so what translated is for. And generally when odd is being used to deal with an abstract or less physical concept, or perhaps not to deal with motion, usually fit it in as for, talking about a change in topic or what's kind of going on with the sentence. So for those things to be done, once again referencing those actions that they discussed up above in the previous section here, for those things to be done, and they have drawn the 2 years sufficient for them for those things to be done. They have the idea that they need to just buy their time for 2 years and make sure they have all their things in order before they can leave. And that makes a lot of sense. They have a lot of stuff to do before they depart. And right off the bat, we follow with into the 3rd year, and we have the departure, direct object, by oath or by decree, by principle, and confirmant, they confirm. So we'll do they confirm that, or they confirm their departure by rule into the 3rd year, which is just saying that they're going to be departing and into this kind of 3rd year after waiting for 2 years. Lex legis also means law. It's obviously this is being written down or recorded in some way. This is what we're going to do. This is their plan. And with that, we'll move on to the next sentence. Just going to bring up some more interesting and personable, dealing with people specifically. So once again, we have this ad eas res conficiendas, a lot of vowel sounds there that I keep messing up. The same phrase is going to mean the same thing. For these matters to be done, for those things to be done. Once again, I'm going to highlight that I'm using this as kind of a way to express the adjective, not as a verb there. Remember, this is a gerund, and there's no real verbal meaning to it, but it fits well as to be done in English. And though this can be a verb in English, this is going to be, can also be used as an adjective. So I'm going to clarify there on that. For those things to be done, or those things about to be done, ergaterics are subject, and this passive is chosen or selected. Ergaterics is chosen. He's going to be the leader of the Helvetians in this instance. And this, of course, is what ergaterics is planning. He wanted to use his influence and his power to come up with this plan and then influence the whole of the Helvetian state and later a bunch of other people. So things are going according to ergaterics' plan. And then we have he for himself, reflexive pronoun there, an ambassador, and then we have ad, and this is going to be the normal, I suppose, usage of ad in the destination to the states, or to the citizenries he takes up. So he takes, I'm just going to put takes as opposed to takes up, takes an ambassador for him to, or excuse me, takes an embassy, a legatus would be a single ambassador, and legationem is the whole of the embassy. An embassy for himself, and he's going to be, meaning that this embassy is representing him, kind of more of that possessive usage of the dative in that sense. Embassy for himself to the states or nations or citizenries. And we will see what states he's talking about specifically next. So on that journey, talking about his taking the embassy for himself around, and we have this main verb right here, persuadet. He convinces Causticus, a person, and we have this qualifying phrase right here. Note this is in the same case as that, both dative there, objects of convince or persuaded. And so it's just going to be in a positive for this. The son of this long word, long name, Catamontaloide. Catamontalo. I'm not really going to know the nominative version, but I'll try to come up with something. Son of, you can tell that it is a genitive there with that third declension is ending. Catamontaloides. I think I'm just going to put that in there as the nominative. And Sequano, don't mistake this for another name. This is going to be the name of a nation, and specifically describing Caustico. He's Sequanian. So he's Sequanian. One of the states that we were describing the borders of in earlier passages. Then we have this to whom, or for whom, and it's going to be, once again, a dative of possession, whose father. So even though, you got to remember that even though dative is not quite genitive, it's sometimes used as a possessive. So you can translate it as whose, as opposed to whom or for whom. The father for whom, whose father. Whose father, we have this regnum neuter, and with this subject out here, we're going to go ahead and assume that's going to be in the accusative. In or over this quanians, for many years, accusative of extent. You have a lot of these, more than one. You have a direct object, and you can also have these accusatives of extent here for many years, especially when you have a time word. words that deal with time, you can go ahead and think about, well, maybe this is an accusative extent, or distance, or any other sort of capacity of something in the accusative case. And we have this hold right here, whose father had held or even occupied the kingship, or held reign or occupied reign over, I think I'll just translate it as kingship over the Sequanians for many years. And we have an et right here, and Senatu Populi Romani. So this is going to be the Senate of the Roman people, and it's by them. A friend, he has been called a friend with this restating predicate nominative there. So he and had been called with this this fourth part of the verb, and the imperfect version of sum esse fui futuris had been called a friend. That predicate nominative can remain in the nominative case there, even though it's talking about something that's after the verb in English. Can't mistake that. Have been called a friend by, with this passive verb taking the subject with this a right here, by the Senate of the Roman people. And then we have a purpose clause right here. Note that subjunctive imperfect. So that, and we have regnum. It could be the subject, but we've been talking about people holding kingship and holding reign over people. So it's going to be, we're going to go ahead and assume that's the accusative or direct object again. And we have yet another usage of in as kind of an over notion over his own state, so that he should hold or seize kingship over his own people. And we have this quote, pater ante habera, and of course the question with quote is, does it mean because or does it mean which? And because we've been talking about several regnums, talking about, it's been mentioned 2 times already, talking about his father holding something, we're going to go ahead and assume that it's going to be talking about the neuter regnum, which goes along with the form of this being neuter. So which his father had held before, and we can shadow in him. No, this is a very common formation in English. Somebody has held it before you. We always talk about before something. We're talking about this kind of thing. So we'll go ahead and shadow that in. Makes it sound nice. We have etemque right here. And also, notice that etem, it's item. We talk about item as a noun, but in Latin it means also. And there's actually a very interesting story behind that about why this is a noun in English, and I suggest you look that up. It's a very interesting story there. And also, and whoa, dative. Well, let's remember what we're doing. We're talking about this verb persuadate, where he's convincing, and the objects of persuadate are in the dative. So you have to remember where we're coming from. Don't lose track of what's going on in the wider phrase when you're dealing with all these little pieces and parts that go into statements. It can get very complicated, but you just got to remain vigilant of what's actually going on and not to get confused. Also, dum norix, very similar little ending there to Argetorix's name. And apparently this is actually if you have this in Gaulish names or a Gallic name, the "-rix" ending meant you were nobility or something like that. So your name would actually change based on your status in Gaulish or Old French society. And also, and this is going to be another nationality or description of nationality, IGUN, IGUN Norix, and fratri dative. So we're going to be restating this Norix fellow, the brother of Diwyciacus. And though these kind of confusing, these do have the I right here, but remember this is frater, fratris, and this is looking like a genitive second declension masculine, Diwyciacus, Diwyciaci, who, and it's pretty easy to say that this is talking about the masculine guy or person we're talking about here, who at that time, with the ablative of time here, eo tempore, we have a chieftainship or chiefship, the foremost position, and we have another incubitate over the state, and we have the same verb. So very regular kind of phrases dealing with how people are holding reign or seizing reign was holding chieftainship over the state, over his state, and we'll be talking about the state of the Aeduans, talking about his home state, over his state, and as well, maxime, most greatly, as an adverb there, plebe in the accusative, or ablative there, and as well, had been accepted or taken up. We'll say accepted because it deals more figuratively with the people. He's been accepted by the people most greatly. So he seems to be in stable control of his state. Unlike this situation back here where they're talking about some shifts in reign and whatnot. Greatly, most greatly, by people. And I guess plebe really should be commoners. The plebeians and the patricians, if you know anything about those distinctions. And then we finally have a purpose clause right here, but we do have directly after that a persuadate. So even though this is in front, you gotta sometimes remember that the main verb can be after this. So he convinces, so that the same, and we'll go ahead and shadow in a direct object of him, so that the same, talking about this edom, and it's in the masculine case, so talking about this Norix fellow, so the same should attempt, or even, see, I believe this could really be a neuter accusative, so that he might attempt the same, talking about the actions and departure discussed previously, so that he might attempt the same, and of him, so his daughter, or this is going to be dative, really. Yeah, sorry about that. That I ending on the preposition or the pronoun there is going to be dative, and for him, his own daughter in matrimonium dot, give to him, that dative object there, his own daughter in marriage, and gives to him his own daughter into marriage or wedlock marriage. So he's going to, Vercingetorix is going to convince him and talk to him about this, and is trying to establish a kind of bond with this state, really. So with that, we've discussed the people and the other people. He's trying to gather some allies, really, with this. And I kind of foreshadowed here with this, talking about friendship with the closest states, and that's what we're trying to do, establish some connections and things to get these Gauls working together and to get Vercingetorix into his plan and get him in control of a bunch of people and get them to wreak havoc on all of Gaul. And that's it. I hope this has been a help, and I'll see you next time.